We are so used to the idea that if you're quiet or you're shy, that means you're not confident. But in my opinion, it's actually the opposite. They give away all their power and they're just talking too much. Okay, they're not as confident as I thought. True confidence is being confident enough to be silent, and fake confidence is very loud. Sit back and take in the room and Hey guys, welcome to Self-Care Sundays with Sophia, where we talk about self-love, self-growth, and everything in between. Today we are talking about the seductive power of silence and mystery and how to lure people in. And this isn't just like the opposite sex, this is anybody. So not only luring people in to seduce them, you can actually seduce men or women, just to be more magnetic in general. And that's just by being quiet and simply observing. We are so used to the idea that if you're quiet or you're shy, that means you're not confident. But in my opinion, it's actually the opposite. When somebody's confident enough to be silent and be still and just confidently observe, that shows way more confidence as opposed to somebody who's just like loud and trying to like be loud and show off they have a personality. That actually shows way more insecurity than somebody who's just silent and chill, right? And there's a lot of power you can gain from doing this. I actually saw a TikTok where 50 Cent was at dinner with this famous actor. I don't know if it was Bruce Willis or it was somebody like that, some OG actor. And he said that 50 Cent noticed that this actor, whenever they were at the table with a big group of people, he quieted his voice down a little bit. And then naturally everybody leaned forward into him. And that's what the actor told 50 Cent, that if it's your turn to speak, quiet your voice and people will naturally go further to you, and they're kind of like giving you power. And I thought that was so interesting because it's so true. I've definitely been in social environments or even just like family dinners when somebody who doesn't speak very much, when they finally do speak, everybody is just like quiet and they really want to hear what they have to say because they're a lot more selective about what they say. They think before they speak. They're not just blabbing. It's more like, okay, you really want to hear what they finally have to say, you know? So it's actually a lot more beneficial to be present and think about what you're going to say and not have to just talk and prove to everybody that you're outgoing, because that's just ridiculous. And another thing too is it's that famous quote, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. And it's so true because everything you're saying, you already know. So what are you really gaining from that? Unless you're willing to sit back and actually hear the other person's perspective on your opinions. Like if you're talking about somebody and you pause and let them say their piece on it, and you can actually take that with an open mind and be willing to change your opinion, that is very powerful. So I'll give you that. But generally listening and observing, that's a skill that took me a long time to realize because I'm such a curious person and I love to learn. But also I think just being the youngest of 5, I really had to blab and show let my presence be known by speaking and being so loud. But it's so much more powerful to sit back and observe. And going back to the seductive part about this, when there's just more mystery about a person overall, you're naturally more drawn to them. You are more curious to figure out what are they thinking, you know, what's their input on that. You're just naturally going to be more drawn to them. So there's a lot of power in that. You'll actually notice when people talk a lot. I've been in situations where I first walk in and maybe at first they're like a little bit intimidating, or you're not sure how nice or how cool they are or whatever. And they start blabbing, and I immediately, just without even realizing it, kind of lose respect for them. Well, not respect, but I just am kind of like, oh, okay, they've shown me all their cards, nothing to be afraid of. And sometimes they talk so much that they give away all their power and they're just talking too much. So you feel way more relaxed because you figured them out. There's been times too when somebody's been quiet for the majority of the social hour and then they start talking, and I thought this whole time that they were super confident and cool and they had something that I didn't know about. And then when they started blabbing and finally got their turn to speak, I was like, oh, okay, they're not as confident as I thought. So it's interesting how when we get older, the more somebody talks, the less confident they actually seem. Not all scenarios, but a lot of scenarios that's the case, because if you're comfortable enough to sit there in silence, wow, they must be really confident, right? I just feel like true confidence is being confident enough to be silent, and fake confidence is very loud. Somebody that doesn't know how to read the room, they don't know when to shut up, and they just keep blabbing and blabbing and blabbing, that's fake confidence. But somebody that can really sit back and take in the room and read the situation, they're going to be a lot better off because they're very aware of everything that's happening. Sometimes when people come in hot and they just start talking before they can really sense the room, you can definitely give people the wrong impression because maybe somebody's a little more conservative, maybe somebody doesn't have the same views, and you didn't even have a minute to soak that in. You just kind of like went for it and showed all your cards at once. So you can't really always connect as well with people when you don't give them a chance and kind of feel out what's appropriate for the types of things you're saying. And I'm talking as if there's something wrong with being a storyteller or being loud. There's nothing wrong with being loud. There's just a way to read the room about it and kind of feel out what's appropriate, and instead of just talking over everybody and stealing the spotlight, if that makes sense. It's kind of like when somebody has good news and somebody else goes, oh, well, I did this, and they totally steal their thunder. It's sort of like that same energy where it's like, okay, the world doesn't revolve around you. Relax, let other people have their moment too, and we can enjoy this moment together and be happy for others, right? This whole thing just kind of ties into confidence. And the cool thing about this is if let's say you're a little bit more shy and you're overthinking or you're worried about what other people think, if you really dissect that and realize that it truly does not matter what anybody else thinks, you'll have so much freedom, because who determines what cool is? You do. You're the one starring in your own movie. This is your life, and you have your own opinions on what's cool and what's not. So it doesn't really matter what anybody else thinks because you're calling the shots. This is your experience. You're in your body and experiencing your life. So you can't worry what anybody else thinks. And even if you feel a little awkward being quiet and you're not used to it, that's totally okay. It's actually a really good exercise to practice being silent and feeling confident while doing so. Because it is hard to do when you're not used to it, but you'll learn so much more and you'll leave the social environment or whatever environment it is feeling so much more accomplished, and maybe you'll have a different perspective because you actually stopped and listened. And I bet you people will be a lot more drawn to you because there is something so much more powerful about being mysterious and not showing all your cards away. It leaves people wanting more. And when you're quiet, it's kind of like a way of demanding respect, but silently, because you don't need to prove to them that you need their validation. When somebody's way too loud, it kind of screams like, look at me, I'm Miss Popular, I'm talking, I'm not shy, I am confident enough to speak in front of the whole room. You don't need to do that. So if you're quiet, it shows that you're a lot more confident. This also kind of ties into dating, how when you're on a first date, you definitely shouldn't tell your whole life story right then and there. You should sit back and be the judge of whether they're passing the test or not. So it's kind of the same with any human relationships in general. It's not like an interview. You don't have to explain why you're fit for the job right off the bat. You got to sit back and actually be like, oh, does this fit my needs? Because when you're truly confident, you look out for yourself, your self-care is good, and you value your own opinions. So sitting back and observing is way more powerful and shows how confident you are, because you don't need to prove anything to anybody. You know you're the shit. It's your life, right? You created yourself. You chose these circumstances. You're the writer. And why wouldn't you think that's incredible? Because you chose all this. That's the best part about life is you created everything. And I know there's periods where you don't feel as confident, and that's just because your self-talk is bad. All of these tips and tricks that I'm saying, okay, act like you don't care, be quiet and observe. The best way to go about it is to actually not care and to actually be quiet because you want to learn and you're interested in hearing other people's perspectives. That's the best way to go about it, is to truly be there. And if you're not confident, it's probably because your self-talk isn't good, and you can change that. You literally just have to remind yourself that you're the shit. You are the shit because you created your life and you got here based on your choices, and your choices are what you think works for you. Does it kind of make sense what I'm saying? It makes sense in my head, but it's hard to put it into words. But everything around you, you once desired, and it manifested into real life. So you're here because you like all of these things. And it's very easy to get lost in your self-talk and to hear the voices, I'm not good enough, I'm not this, I'm not that. Just rewire it literally by every day, telling yourself that you're amazing. You don't need to prove anything to anybody because you're the judge. You created your life, and all that matters is your opinion of yourself. I think it's just so much better for any relationship in general, whether not just romantic, but friendship or anything, if you slowly let things unfold. It's kind of like that saying, a candle that burns twice as fast is gonna, go out twice as fast. That's not how it goes, but it's something like that. If you're too much too fast, it's gonna die out. It's kind of like love bombing in a way, where it's like, oh my gosh, and then it's like, oh, okay, there's not much left to work with. You kind of got to build a base and slowly reveal parts of yourself once that person has kind of gained your trust and you've read what's appropriate to tell them or not. Because if you're quiet or you're quieter and you're watching somebody and you're listening to their stories, you can kind of gauge what their morals are and what kind of person they are, and are they trustworthy of you telling them these certain things? Are they worthy of knowing my personal info? Doesn't necessarily have to be personal, but just any story in general, because if you watch somebody tell stories, maybe you can tell that they're a bit of an over-exaggerator, and then if they repeat what I say, I don't want it to get twisted and turn into some gossip thing when it wasn't even meant to be gossip in the first place. So there's just so many reasons why being silent is way more powerful than being loud. It's literally why you go to school. You listen to a teacher talk so that you can absorb the information. It's why we read books, watch YouTube videos, and any other learning sources, is from absorbing the things around us. If we spent our whole lives giving and talking, you wouldn't grow. You just would kind of sit in the same place and reaffirm your same beliefs. But if you are a storyteller and you're able to listen to other people's feedback with an open mind and be able to change your opinions, that's very, very powerful. Also, being shy is actually a win-win situation, because you're learning twice as much and people can't read you. So even if you are feeling a little insecure, you probably just seem confident to them because you don't feel the need to prove and talk and blab, and it's just going to be better for you in the long run. Let me also preface this with, if you are a loud, outgoing person and you love telling stories and it genuinely makes you happy, there's nothing wrong with that. And who cares what people think? If what I'm saying right now doesn't resonate with you, don't take it then. If being loud and being the center of attention is for you and that works for you, great. All I want you to do is just kind of open your mind and maybe be self-aware enough to recognize, okay, am I hitting that line where I'm not reading the room, or am I being too loud where it's inappropriate? That's all I'm saying, is because there's people that are introverts and there's people that are extroverts. Both are great qualities, but I think just as a general human life skill is to be able to sense the people around you and see if you guys are actually on the same page and be aware or not if it's hitting the spot. Because if you're blabbing so much that you're not even present, what's the point of it? You're just like a blabbing talking machine and nothing's coming in, nothing's coming out. You're just like a robot that's talking. I've watched a lot of videos on this just about demanding power with your silence, and I think it's so powerful, and it really inspires me to sit back, and anytime I'm in a group setting, to be able to challenge myself to just listen and learn from others, because that's how mankind has gotten to as far as we have, is because we've been able to learn from each other and actually take it in, grow, and build on that information. Anyway, I hope this video inspired you. My name is Sophia Pearson. You can find me on all my social medias at Sophia Pearson. We'll see you next week on Self-Care Sundays with Sophia. Bye!